How's it going, everybody? I'm back in Fallout 4, again at Starlight Drive-In. I'm going to be building a few more houses in this build. This one is a little bit more interesting, I think, than my last couple, uh, because this also includes a guard tower of some kind. And then in the final build, there's a couple differences that you guys will probably notice. I changed a couple things. I'll point them out whenever we get there uh, in the build. But yeah, so first of all, I have a couple things I need to talk about. So last week, my channel grew exponentially. It was amazing. It was a great week. I gained over 200 subs, I think. Yeah, over 200 subs. As of right now, I'm at around 410 when recording this. Uh, Probably need to explain why I'm recording so far ahead. I made a comment last week. I record ahead of time, just for all the newcomers. So I record ahead of time because I still work full time, and it's kind of hard to record the day that I want to release something because the majority of the time I work that day. So I just I record all my videos usually on the weekends or just whenever I have time available to record. Um, Before I had this many subs, I would literally record. I mean, at one point I had like 2 or 3 weeks worth of videos whenever I was doing what's a Grey Garden. So I had like 2 or 3 weeks worth of videos at a time, and I had recorded them all at once because I didn't really have some insane growth in subscribers, and I wasn't expecting that at any point in time. And so, I mean, I wasn't expecting it now either, and so that's why I didn't mention it at all in any of my previous videos last week whenever it happened. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody who has subscribed to me in the last week, and then also No Respawns for the shout out, because I mean a majority of all of my subscribers come from him. Um, so I mean it's amazing to be able to be shouted out by someone so much bigger than me, because that really helps my channel grow, and it's just a great opportunity. So hopefully I can make content that you guys like and builds that you guys enjoy seeing, and it helps you guys build some more interesting things. I'm not opposed to seeing you guys' builds. If you guys want to tweet me or anything like that, like links to your builds or anything, I will check them out. I don't mind. Just YouTube flags them as spam, and I don't really get on my PC as often right now because I actually broke my monitor a while back. I have a VR headset. If you guys go back to my old videos, I've done videos on them before, or on my VR before, and I have that set up in my living room, and I have an office, so I have to move my PC to my living room anytime I want to play it. And so my graphics card only has one HDMI slot, and the VR headset has to go in there. And so does my monitor, because then I have to have a monitor to actually see what I'm playing and stuff, and actually control the computer. And I mean, I could get like an adapter for like mini display to HDMI, because I bought a mini display port hoping that the VR headset would work, but for some reason it just doesn't. With mini display, HTC Vive doesn't. And so I have to actually like keep my monitor with my PC, which is kind of frustrating, but I don't really mind. It's not that big of a deal. But uh, otherwise, I'd have a monitor right now, so kind of sucks, but I'll live. I have a TV, so that's what I have been playing on and recording on, but I've just not been able to do anything on my PC a lot lately, and I don't really have those options on my phone. I can hook my PC up to my TV, I just have to move it constantly, which is kind of frustrating. But yeah, it'll mark your comments that you put links in or anything like that. It also does it when people like mention channels and stuff. Like YouTube marks a lot of comments as spam, and I can't always go to those links or anything. So honestly, your best bet to get to me, if you want me to see your builds or something like that, your best bet is to actually just tweet me or something like that so I can see it on my phone. And yeah, I don't have a problem with checking out people's builds and stuff. I like to see what other people build. That's what I was saying on the comment on No Respawn's video whenever he shouted me out. Because he told everyone I'd made that suggestion for that build, and it's because that was like an idea that I had to do eventually. I would like to do something like that as Bunker Hill, and I was gonna do the level 4 merchants there, even though I have my level 4 merchants here. But this is like a separate save from my like current like building save. This save is actually the one I did my Sanctuary Treehouse on, and then I'm doing this build as well. But I'm going to do all my rebuilds on this specific save, and then do all my new builds on my main save. But yeah, it's been a great week uh, for the channel. It's insane to be over 400 subs. Kind of blows my mind, especially whenever I was just like a little under 200, and over like the weekend, well, my weekend, it was like, holy crap. But yeah, thank you all for all the support, and again, thanks No Respawns for the shout out. It's awesome. It really helps me a lot. But yeah, I want more people to see my builds just because I want to see what other people can build with inspiration from my builds, because people comment all the time and let me know that I inspired them on this build or that build, and it's nice to hear that, and then also nice to see what people can make because they saw my build. They go, "Oh, I like the way that looks. I think that would look good here." Or I want to build something like that, but a little bit different. And then in the end, that helps me too, because then I can go back later and, I mean, see other people's builds that have been inspired by me, and that might inspire me to build something. But that's probably the main reason I really started doing this, was to really help myself and help other people get inspired. Uh, I wanted to show people my builds. More specifically, No Respawns, because No Respawns is the one that like made me start wanting to upload. Seeing his builds, and I was like, I build a lot. I should upload my videos. And I had been watching him for a while before I actually decided to upload any of my builds. And it's insane to like be shouted out by him and stuff. So that's really, really cool. But yeah, this build is a lot like the other houses. Like I said earlier in the video, I haven't really talked about the build at all. Mainly just been talking about the channel. But this build is a lot like the previous builds, but it's only a few houses and then a guard tower as well. So up here, I'm starting to get to where the guard tower is going to be. And I'm building a pathway across over to the roof of that other building, because I'm going to be building a house on top of that house. And that, if you guys haven't noticed already, that's how I like to build the houses and this type of build. So this is mainly just like a shanty town type of thing. Somebody pointed out in the comments last week, they talked about the lore that I kind of build around my settlements, and that's kind of my main goal whenever I do build, is I want there to be lore in my settlement, because I want to be able to walk into my settlement and know like, oh, this person has this sort of personality because I made them have that sort of personality, of course, but I want to think when I go into a settlement that there's actual people living there and stuff like that, and it's not just nameless person, just settler. Of course, I don't name my settlers or anything, and I wish that there was a mod that did that on PS4. I know that there is on PC, and I don't know if there is on Xbox or not, but that's a really cool mod. And then also, I know that there is a mod that adds children settlers, and I've really thought about downloading that, but I'm just not 100% sure that I really want that. Uh, from what I've seen, it's kind of buggy and stuff, and then also videos I've seen, sometimes they just look like adults with like children faces, which is really weird. But until there's something that's like more solid that works well, I probably won't do anything like that. And yeah, so this is where I'm gonna build the next house is on this roof, and I built a path over, and then I didn't want to use the same textures over and over, so I used the quarry catwalk and then also scaffolding pieces or scaffolding floors to fill in the space between this quarry catwalk and that roof over there. Because I want the textures to be kind of mixed up, and then also it be somewhat realistic, so nothing's really like floating or anything like that. I really try to avoid that as often as possible. I don't want anything to look like ridiculous. I just want things to look realistic and to feel real, I guess. But yeah, so this is where I'm going to build the next house on. And so at first I was kind of messing around, like trying to figure out how I wanted those, and I'm trying to see if it was floating at all. That's why I was jumping. And just to kind of just get rid of that altogether, I decided to build on the side of the roof at first instead of doing that the way I was. I was trying to make it even, and yeah, so I can snap that in, and so now I have that floor in, and I move that up a little bit so that those plywood pieces kind of stick through, because I want those textures to kind of blend together. And I also wanted to have a like window up on this side, kind of like how I did on the other side. So after I put this door on here, and I put a couple walls on, I think, after I put this door on, there'd be a cut here because it was like an angle, and I went ahead and fixed it later. But so I wanted to have like a window, and I usually go for windows with like the rags and curtains and stuff kind of thing, just because it's a little bit more private. It's just I guess a privacy thing, I think. But yeah, I'm trying to make it a little bit even with the build below it, and also even with that corner of that door frame. And then I'm going to go ahead and fill in the gap with the shack floor. Usually I don't do that. I use the plywood pieces just for the fact that they typically are easier to just put in, because the shack floors, if it was any easier to put those in, I mean, I would do that, but they kind of have uh, they snap at weird angles and stuff, and so if I were to put it on that left side, it would just snap out and look really weird. So I use the plywood pieces to kind of fill that little gap. So as you can see, it's more of an angle, more even with that uh, outer, like the window piece or whatever, and then I just use the half shack walls to fill in the gaps on the plywood pieces. So next I'm going to go ahead and put all the walls on the build. I was just making sure it was even with that. And to kind of mix up the textures. So I usually have a pattern, which I think it's kind of an issue with my walls. I always put plywood, the one with the little gap in the piece with the gray, like the wire fence, and it's like part plywood, part wooden wall, and then I put the wooden wall. And I think that's kind of an issue because it's the same pattern almost every single time. Also, right here, I use CVA, Custom Vanilla Assets, uh, in the Structures tab that's not in USO. In the Wood tab, under Roofs, they have quarter roof pieces that you can place, and those are fantastic for building with. You can fill in small gaps in roofs and stuff like that. Really easy with those, and it's a really good mod to have because it unlocks a lot of different pieces for you to build with. And then this is the little guard tower I was telling you guys about. So this is the thing that you'll notice a little bit of a difference between this and the final build. It's not drastic or anything like that, but I did change it a little bit to make it look a little nicer. But I used Place Anywhere to put a staircase from the warehouse tab on the left side of that little walkway on the roof of the first house. And then I thought about connecting that, but then I just decided that I would place it over here a little bit closer to the side of the stairs. I should have moved it a little over to the left because it becomes an issue whenever I start trying to put in railings. It's just way too close. And I think I try to change that, but I just don't do a very good job at moving it far enough left. I just didn't want it to be all the way to the left. And then, yeah, so that snaps right in. And honestly, oh, I moved those down so that the textures don't kind of clip through too much on that piece that I have kind of glitching. And so I like that floor that I have on the tower because I think that it just looks really good how I have it with the grate on this right side and then the graded floor on this side over here. I think that it worked out pretty well. And then I just go ahead and put railings. I try to mix up the textures and stuff like that, including what is it, concrete railings and stuff like that. And then down here, I use the post from the warehouse tab on all four corners of the tower, and then also two on that side by the stairs. And then to make it look a little bit more held up, I use the ball track supports. And then with USO, under the miscellaneous tabs under wood, you can find these supports. And so these supports have an issue where they clip underneath things, like anything you try to place them on. And so the best use that I've seen, or the best way to use them from what I've seen, is to actually just place the floors and stuff down because I think it only clips through floors. It might not do it roofs, but technically that is sitting on top of that floor right now. Like where it thinks it's being placed is on top of that floor. And then because of the clipping or the clipping issues that it has where like if you were to place it on the ground it goes like a couple feet under. That's what it does there and it's almost perfect like every single time where it'll snap like just to the bottom of the floor so you can use it as supports really well. And then to kind of break up the texture again up here, I use the shack bridge without the supports underneath it just to kind of have a different textured wood on top of that. And then I use Place Anywhere to place a guard post up here because like I said, I wanted this to be a tower. And then like I said before, I do change this because all I do is I delete that corner piece or that side's piece so that it kind of just looks like an angle. Kind of makes it a little less of a square And I think that it turns out pretty good. And you can see I removed this railing right there. I didn't do it for the rest of the video though. And then now I'm building the last house of this little area. I think that I'm going to have a few more sets of houses. I know that's probably getting old now because, I mean, they're all pretty much the same style, but they are all different. I try to make each one a little bit uh, different than all of the others, and also I try to make all of my builds interesting. But yeah, so I know that I've also been using these like angled houses a lot too, and I've been doing that just for the fact that this is kind of built around a circle, that little watering hole type of thing. Like how someone had pointed out the other day, like I was mentioning earlier, someone pointed out that uh, these builds like kind of have their own lore behind them, and that's what I have been trying to do is build a lore that like people have started to build up around this water source, and then built purifiers. More people started to move in. Vendors started to move in. They built this huge structure for all the vendors and stuff. And then there's all the original vendors kind of based around uh, the watering hole still scattered throughout it and stuff. And yeah, I think that it still turns out pretty well. The lore makes sense, and I think that it is pretty cool for this settlement to have that kind of story behind it. This house, I did a different kind of doorway rather than using the regular doorways. I just went ahead and made it a little bit more open using the half shack walls. So that's pretty much the doorway right there. And then I put steps in front to kind of build up to it. And then in the final tour, I actually put wooden beams across the top to make it a little bit shorter. So it does feel a little bit more closed in, but not so much. I wish I had like vertical beams, not just horizontal beams, so that I could build like extensions on walls and stuff like that, or close in door frames a little bit more. But there's not really any mods that or any that I've really found. But if there is, somebody please let me know because I would love to have vertical beams or vertical wooden like pieces, boards and stuff because I've used the boards in the past. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's just literally like a piece of wood, and I use them to make door frames out of like smaller gaps and stuff in buildings, and it always turns out really well, but I feel like the door frames that I build are always too wide, and I wish that I could make them a little bit thinner. Like maybe only one piece or two pieces, like one on each side, maybe. And uh, I think that would make the door frame look a little bit better, a little bit more interesting. But I don't have any mods that add that kind of stuff. Uh, Also, if you guys have any mods that you'd like me to review or suggest that I'd use, uh, let me know. I'll let you know if I do use it. I really need to do a like mod load order slash like what mods do I have video. Uh, I may do that this week or next week. I just need to kind of figure out what all mods I actually do use because I have a lot of mods downloaded that I don't use at all. I downloaded them when they first came out and then immediately like disabled them. And yeah, I need to like clean out my mod list first before I do that. But like I said, let me know if there's any mods that you guys use that you think that I could use that would help me. And also if there's any mods that you guys would like me to cover. But yeah, so this is kind of just walkways. I like doing this little pathway around the build, around these housing areas for my settlers to kind of walk around. And it adds a little bit more depth and detail and stuff. Also, you'll notice that I like practically abuse plywood pieces and also these shack bridges, but the scrappy texture of these and the plywood make builds look so much better. It's unbelievable. And right here, all I'm doing is building another walkway over to this roof over here. I'm not doing another house, but I'm going to do another little defense area on this roof. And I use these shack bridges to kind of build the floor over here. And I couldn't get it to actually place how I wanted, so I just placed it off a little bit, place anywhere, and I accidentally picked up my own piece. And I moved it a little bit and then got it. And I got it right in where I wanted it. I wanted it to be even with this last piece on this shack bridge that's kind of hanging over. But yeah, so then I placed another one next to that. And to kind of not look like it's all the same repeating textures, I placed a quarry catwalk on the end and then placed a bunch of plywood over the shack bridges to kind of break the texture up. And then I put some railings on both sides over here. I did not put a guard post up here. I did use the rugs, and you'll notice in a second, to kind of make it look a little bit less open up there, I went ahead and I placed these supports on these. I really like things looking supported, and those textures blend really well. But I also used the cinder block pieces on the end of this. Thankfully that fit like almost perfectly. And then kind of made it a little bit layered. And yeah, the tour's coming up here in a second. Just fidgeting with these pieces, trying to make them look a little bit more even, and then place a guard mat down for the guard that's going to be going between this and that guard post up on the top. But here's the final tour. As you can see, I added a windmill, and then also I added some like reverse junk walls, a little farm over there too. But I used the reverse junk walls to kind of make this section look a little bit more closed off, because I felt like it should be. I don't know why. I want to make it a lot more closed off. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. I don't know if I want to do a wall around the whole settlement. I don't really like doing that typically. I did it at my Red Rocket, but I feel like that's small enough of a settlement for it to make sense. But I don't typically do that around every settlement, just for the fact that it takes forever, and also junk walls can kind of be a little bit bland. Take away from like seeing your build from the distance and just being like, wow, that's crazy, looks really good or something like that. It just kind of takes away from it, I think. Having a few junk walls around, I think, works better. But I kind of blocked off this area, like I said, back on that end. I put chain link fences and stuff because I plan on doing more houses around that backside. But we'll see how that goes. But each of these houses I decorated a little bit more different than the others. So this one was a little sectioned off, like I said. So there was the room over there by the bed over there by the living room, little kitchen, and then a little office back here. Got some junk scattered around. You'll notice that more often with my builds. I place boxes and junk everywhere. I really like to decorate in this game. I think that that is what makes a build look the best. Because like right here, I think that looks awesome. I really like the way that this turned out. This house specifically, I like the way that the decorations are. The little TV and stuff. Like, you can't even, I mean, obviously you can't watch TV, but just having that junk in your house and stuff, I think looks cool. And then also, I really like these narrow alleyway things that I've kind of built everywhere. And then, like I said, I put chain link fences on the sides of the two open sides. And so I also placed a farm out here for the person that lives in this next house I'm going to go in. So the person that lives in this house, that's who takes care of that farm. But if you go in here, some junk, random stuff, a little table for that person, and then small bed. Not too much decoration, but enough for me to be happy. This house is kind of small and not that interesting, so that's about all I could really figure that I wanted to do uh, anyway. And then, like I said, it's closed off down there, and then you have a nice view up here of all of the builds, also the water purifiers. I'm gonna do more builds around this circle, around the water purifiers. But up here is the guard tower. You'll notice a little bit of the difference. So I just moved a couple things. I placed a guardrail there, and then uh, moved that guardrail over there. But you can see I got rid of that corner piece. And the guard actually does get up here, which is really cool. I really didn't expect her to do that. But she doesn't really come down very often. Place a little chill area down here. I thought this was pretty cool. It's just like along the way, along the route of someone coming home. They got like a little porch area or something like that. Or maybe it's the place where the guard goes. This originally was the house for the guard. I have added something since this build, since I recorded this video. And I could have recorded it, but I don't think it was interesting enough to be recorded. All it is like a super small shack for the guard. So it's nothing like too crazy. But yeah, really pleased with how this build turned out. And really excited that the guard actually goes up there too. But let me know what you guys think. Be sure to check out some of my other builds while you're here. If you're new, subscribe. And all of you new guys, thank you all for watching my videos and subscribing. And thanks to No Respawns for the shout out recently. And I'll see you guys all in the next video. Have a good one.